There's no redeeming qualities in this book. There's nothing to recommend it. There's nothing good. I had the worst time.
Hello and welcome to the Bookering Podcast. My name's Katie.
I'm Tawny.
Tawny, we've been recording this podcast for how long now?
For 6 months. It's
six months?
Fine.
So that means we're on our 6th episode, right, Tawny? That means we have 6 episodes, right?
That's exactly what that means. Definitely nothing untrue about that statement.
So if you're just listening for the first time, which is all of you, probably
everyone,
you'll be like, what is this episode title? Mid-year review. This is the first episode of the podcast. And the situation is that the editor and producer of this podcast has ADHD and is easily overwhelmed. And that person's me. And so we, rather than me being overwhelmed with approximately 15 hours of audio that I will simply never touch, we have decided to take a step back, rework the format a little bit, abandon those episodes. They weren't good anyway. You're not missing out on anything. Nothing at all.
Theoretically, you may hear some of them in some form at some point.
Not if I have anything to do with it. So we're just gonna start from June. Start where we are. But we thought that since it's the end of June, it's now July, we would take this as an opportunity to do a review of our reading for the past 6 months, talk about our goals that we set at the beginning of the year, how we're doing with those goals, and just working off of this like booktuber mid-year review tag. So that's the plan for this little bonus episode. Just get you back up to speed. So
yeah, welcome to our 6 months of reading.
Wow. Here we are. Wow. We're doing it. We're doing it. So let's just jump into things now, because this is going to be a 45-minute bonus episode podcast and not a 3-hour one is the goal here for the day. I
think it's accomplishable.
Oh, I think we can do it. Yeah. So let's start with the first question here. So Tawny, I'd love you to tell me what your 2020 reading goals were and how have they been going?
So I only set 2 reading goals. One is going well and one is going poorly. So my overall goal for the year was to read 52 books. And I'm currently at 74 books read.
What the fuck?
On July 2nd. Why did I say that like a hillbilly? July. Yeah, so crushing it. It's been very exciting. Shout out to Libby, which is really the main enabler for my reading habits.
For listeners who don't know, my job is to educate men, actually, what Libby is. It is an app for your iPad, your phone, where you can borrow Kindle books, ebooks from the library. And it's very easy to do. You just go to Libby or Overdrive, just Google it, and you'll put in your library card. And then you're able to put books on your hold list and just borrow books directly to your Kindle. We support our local libraries. We do not support Jeffrey Bezos in this household.
This is
to the best of our ability. To the best of our ability. So just a shout out to Libby. Yes.
Libby, the best.
Great.
App.
Great.
Yes. The other goal was that I wanted to read, by the end of the year, I wanted to be at 50% books read by BIPOC authors, and I'm not doing great. I out of 74, I think I was at 23 when I counted, so like around 31%. I'm not crushing it, and I should be doing better at that. So that is a thing that I'm going to make an effort at. But what were your goals? How are you doing? Tell us all about it.
So similarly, I set a goal of reading 52 books this year, and I've only read 41. Where if you asked me this last year, I'd have been like, that's so many. But now compared to Tawny, I'm like,
41 is so many. It is indeed so many.
What? So no, I feel good about it. Like, obviously gonna hit the 52 mark. I will not be making Tawny's Beagle, which is later in this podcast. But no, I'm reading a lot more this year. I'm really enjoying it. So I'm like very happy with how much I've been reading. Past few months have been hit and miss. I recently had a reading slump, and that's over now thanks to some of my June reads. So like, thank goodness we're back on track. So feeling great about that. My second book was that I was planning on exclusively buying books from independent bookstores or borrowing from the library and not supporting Amazon. I've done hit and miss with this. I don't have the exact stats because I didn't feel like doing it, but I know I've bought some books on Amazon. But I have, through like my Book of the Month subscription, been supporting independent bookstores, and I've been doing a lot of Libby books. I have been utilizing Kindle Unlimited recently, but you know what? That's okay. The situation is that individual decisions in the grand scheme of things do not do as much as large corporations, so I don't have to feel that bad about it. But it's also like, financially, there is the library, as we all know, so I should do that. It is the goal, yes. So I'd like to do better about that. I also have like a huge physical TBR in my home, and I should like really just like work my way through all of the books I own that I've not read. So
same. Gotta do that.
Yeah. And then my third goal, I did not set a quantifiable goal, which is not what it's hard to measure your progress if you don't set a quantifiable goal. But I said more books by people of color. I've not been doing super great at this. However, something that I've pinpointed is that I think I need to develop my internet space and infrastructure so that like the books that I hear about and want to read are the ones written by people of color and are written by people who have less representation. So right now I've been thinking about like, you know, relooking about who I follow on Twitter, any bookstagrammers to follow, and be like, okay, I'm going to intentionally create a space where the books I hear about are more diverse books, rather than forcing myself to read books by POC if that's not what I'm excited about.
Yes. Yeah, not just reading books written by people of color simply because they were written by people of color. You still want to read books that you're excited about.
Yeah.
You just need to identify those ones.
Yeah. So I want, exactly. So I instead of me now making myself feel bad about it, I'm going to take a look of like who I follow and how I hear about books and try to change that environment so that going forward, it's easier for me to read more diverse books. And I think that is a reasonable way to do things.
I think that is an excellent way to do it. I think you are so smart and you're doing a great job.
Thanks, Tawny. Next are some genres, and I'm going to start here. So I do have the stats for this because this was easier. Now we're going to be covering what the top 5 genres we've been reading this year. And I think this is funny for me. This year I've read 24 romance books, 12 contemporary fiction, 9 young adult, 8 fantasy, and 7 historical. I'm shocked by historical because I'm not like a historical person at all. And my 6th genre was LGBTQ plus, and I almost just like lied and like said like, no, it's LGBT. That sounds like way more fun of a genre. But it's a better time. It's a better time. But no shock for me right now, except I'm a big mystery thriller person. I think it's because we haven't hit fall. Fall is like my murder time, you know?
Yeah.
Spooky season.
I was really surprised looking at your stats that mystery thriller wasn't on there at all, because that's one of the top genres I think of for you.
It's like I've read like 4 so far this year, but I have my physical TBR out, and it's like half of them are mystery thriller. So like we're approaching time. Like
yes.
we've been having fun rom-com time this year, and soon it's time to murder instead. So
yeah, spring summer is rom-com season. I don't know if you know, but it's about to be murder season. I actually have been developing a specific spooky TBR to start in like August, September time.
Tawny,
so
I was
excited.
literally planning a Halloween party with my some of my Philly friends. It was June when we were doing this. We're insane. It's something about summer.
Incredible.
It's something about summer that's like, oh, it's time for spooky season immediately. So
it is.
Yes, yeah.
For me, living in Texas, as soon as it's summer, I am just ready to fast forward through this absurd heat and humidity. So I'm ready for fall as well.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so my genres, I may have broken them down.
I'm shocked by yours.
Go ahead.
Sorry. Okay. So I'm not shocked, but because I do know everything you've read this year,
yeah.
I'm shocked because I feel like it's not your typical genre situation. So this is my shock. Yeah.
Well, okay. So I may have broken mine down a little bit different from you, just because you have a specific young adult category on yours, and I didn't do that. So a lot of the fantasy that I read was young adult. Some of the contemporary fiction that I read was young adult, but I just grouped it into like the larger sort of whatever I felt it fell into most. So number one for me was fantasy. I read 32 fantasy books so far this year, which has been a really fun time for me. Specifically like the last couple of months, this has been very big for me. And then second, I have read 21 romance books. Third, I've read, we're dropping off big here, 9 mystery thrillers. I have read 8 contemporary fiction, and then every other genre that I've read, I have only read one of. So I read 1 classic, I read 1 historical fiction, and I read 1 memoir. And that's about it.
You should see my graph that's fiction versus nonfiction, because it's like it's 1 nonfiction book and 40 fiction.
Yeah, I did a pie chart for my genres, and I was like, why did I do this? There are 3 actual genres that I read, and then everything else is just the slimmest little sliver.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm having a great time though. I feel like like this year and last year, I have really increased my reading, like by a ton, obviously. Shout out to the pandemic. And it's been exciting to like figure out more specifically my taste in books and things that I enjoy. And so it's been fun to delve deeper into some genres that maybe I wasn't reading as much of previously.
Yeah, no, I found that like, especially with the past couple of years, like being at home and everything, I found which books I actually enjoy reading. And I've really just like made a line in the sand there. I'm like, yes, only fun romance, nothing else. No informative books for me. Don't want that. So next we're going to talk about the best books so far. So Tawny, do you want to talk about a couple of your favorites so far this year?
Yes. So like I said, I've been having a blast. I have 13 5-star reads from the 74 that I've read this year, which is a lot. So I just picked a couple of my favorites from among that list. Legendborn by Tracy Deonn. It's so good. It lives up to the hype. It is a young adult fantasy novel based on Arthurian legend. It's fantastic. The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. 6 of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. I love it so much. And then the X Talk. Rachel Solomon wrote that.
She did.
I didn't even have to to look at that. So sorry. Apologies to Rachel for not immediately grasping the name. That's the best rom-com I've read this year. Probably one of my favorite rom-coms of all time. It was great. Yes, it's been very fun. What have been your favorite books?
Yeah, so mine was easier than yours because I've only had the 4 5-star rates because I'm picky apparently. And
you have higher standards than I do.
Standard. I think I've also read trashier books than you this year in general. So I think that's a personal issue. I loved Verity by Colleen Hoover. I've not read one of her books before, and now I own a few that are on my physical TBR. I'm really excited to read. It's a really fun blend of mystery, thriller, and romance, and it's about publishing. Like, I just really loved it. I had such a good time. I actually started listening to it on audiobook and then was like, I need to know what happens sooner than 6 hours from now, so I'm gonna just go buy it actually. So that was the story. And then the X Talk, also one of my favorite rom-coms of all time. It literally just like hits every single thing that we like. It's like Buffy, podcasts, radio, fake dating, nerds, dog, just like
everything.
Just all the things. Everything you could possibly want. People Leave Me on Vacation by Emily Henry was also a really, really fun rom-com. I do think I like the X Talk more. That was still like a 5-star read for me.
I loved it. It was so
very
good.
enjoyable, like a very good time. Love a University of Chicago shout out. Even if, my beef with the book is like, did not use the correct Chicago lingo. She could have had a consultant. I could have been the consultant.
Emily Henry, please call Katie. She's got your back.
For your future Great Lakes themed rom-coms, I'm there for you. Like, we can converse. Just like, yes, I'm here. And then One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston, which I just read this month and I absolutely loved so much. And I'll be talking about it more in our June review episode. So yeah,
so good. I'm excited to talk about that one. What was the worst book that you read?
Oh my, Tawny, what could be the worst
what could
book?
It be?
What could it be? It's The Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J. Maas. And let me tell you, when I had the worst time reading this book. Okay, so for those of you who are not familiar, this is the 4th book in the A Court of Thorns and Roses series by Sarah J. Maas, which the first 3 are very enjoyable. They're a fast, fun time. They're silly. There's fairy sex. It's fine. We enjoy them. It's a good time. This was not a good time. This was not. It was just absolutely a bad time is what I have to. It was so long. It felt long. None of the other ones feel long when you're reading. It's like, oh, did I just read a 450-page book in like one day? Wow, look at me. I felt every minute reading this book. And the thing is that, could I tell you the overarching plot line beyond the romance subplot? No, I could not. I don't know. I don't remember. It's gone. It's gone from my brain. But so it focuses on side characters. It's from the main character's sister's point of view, who she's like this broody, mean, everyone misunderstands her. And like she has a good character arc in the original trilogy. But then here I feel like it's just so fucked up and everyone like blames her for very like understandable things and they treat her terribly. And like, yeah, there's good sex scenes, but like you can get a lot better in a shorter, more fun book that I will talk about later.
So soon
in the June review. It's just like, do you want a training montage where Nesta has to learn how to hold a plank? Do you want that?
Oh God, I don't. Okay, here's the thing. Here's the thing, guys.
No, you have to read it. You have to.
I read the first 3 ACOTAR books last month or in May, at Katie's recommendation, and I had a great time. It was so fun. And they're not like good, but they're so fun. They're
exactly.
You get it. I love Nesta and Cassian. Like the whole thing with the 3rd book in that series is that you get to focus more on the side characters, and I really loved that. I ship it. I'm into these characters. She's an asshole. He's a himbo. I'm here for it. And so I really want to read this, and I'm so sad that it's not going to be good and I'm going to hate it, but I'm probably just
you might
read it.
You might enjoy it more than me, but just like the writing is so bad too. Like, not that it's good in the first 3 books, but it's better, you know? And it's just, I feel like a lot of the character decisions don't make any sense, and it's just very frustrating. And
like I've not read it, but clearly, based on the content that you have presented, this should not be a greater than 700-page book, and yet it is. I don't understand why she's done that. Like, Sarah.
And then, like, Tawny's gonna read it, and I don't want to spoil the ending, but I really, there's a decision at the end that really frustrates me. So when you do read it, we can talk about it. So
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, that was the worst book I've read this year. I wish sometime I should talk about the worst book I read in 2020, because I actually have stronger feelings about that. So
I'm excited for eventually us finding a way for you to talk about that.
So what was the worst book you read? I remember this, and it's on my TBR because you hated it so much.
It is so bad. Okay. It is called Fairy Godmothers Inc. by Sirana DeWylde. And I don't even know if I can articulate how bad this book is. I thought this was just going to be a sweet little rom-com with like a kind of magical twist. And let me tell you, there's nothing good. The characters are terrible. The plot is terrible. Everything about the writing is terrible. Apologies. It's so bad. I have read some bad books. I've read some books that I didn't enjoy this year. Like, specifically, I was very disappointed by the Shadow and Bone trilogy. But like, I do get why some people like that, despite, the mal of it all. There's no redeeming qualities in this book. There's nothing to recommend it. There's nothing good. I had the worst time. It's mercifully pretty short. I think it's like just around 300 pages, maybe even less. So it went quickly, and I read it. It's so bad. Don't read it, but maybe
I'm gonna
read it and we talk about it.
I'm going to. It's on my list.
Everyone else out there, all of our many, many, many listeners, because this is a real podcast.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to warn you all, please don't do it. Don't do it.
Excited that we're both gonna read each other's worst book of the year.
I'm also
Oh man!
You bad time.
You do have to read my worst book of 20. That's how we'll talk about it. You have to read the worst book of 2020, and then we get to talk about it.
Okay,
that's it. That's the solution. We did it. I found it. Anyways,
tell me again what it was called.
It's The Wives. It's The Wives by Taryn Fisher. I will. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. Great.
Yeah. Great. Looking forward to that for you. Okay, so now that we got some ranting out of the way, let's talk about new books we're looking forward to or haven't read yet. So I have 2, because I cannot be tamed. One is coming out so soon, later in like a couple of weeks. It's Anyway the Wind Blows by Rainbow Rowell. So Tawny, I think you would really enjoy this series. This is the 3rd and last book in a trilogy. That have you ever read Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell?
So I did read Fangirl, and I did enjoy it. I've heard good things about the first one. Carry On the first one?
Carry On.
And then I heard bad things about the second one.
I liked the second one. I don't.
Oh, okay.
I read these like a few years ago, so I don't recall any. I don't have the internet discourse in my head situation. Okay. I just know that I liked them. So in Fangirl,
I trust you more than I trust the internet. So.
That's a good time. And in Fangirl, the main character writes the way that I do not remember any characters' names. Baz is the Draco Malfoy character, and I don't remember.
I want to say the other one is Simon.
You're right. It's Simon Snow.
It's Simon Snow.
It's Simon Snow. I was about because it's right here. I was about to check. It's Simon Snow. You're correct. Writes Simon Baz fan fiction, which is the same thing as Draco Harry fan fiction. It's the same situation. And Rainbow Rowell made this decision to be like, okay, I want to write the fan fiction. I want to write the fake Harry Potter fan fiction. And then it's like one of my favorite books by her. I love that for her. It's one of my favorite books by her. It's so fun. It's a very fun wizarding school, gay characters, chosen one trope, bad boy trope. Very good time. Very good play on tropes and fantastical elements and everything. I really enjoyed the second one. I didn't critically think about it that much. So maybe there's things wrong with it. Who knows? But the third one does come out in a couple of weeks, and I'm looking forward to it. Joanna Robinson says it's good. So, you know.
Good. I trust Joanna Robinson. I don't even know who specifically said that it was bad. I remember hearing that it was bad, and I was like, oh, maybe I just won't read that series. But like I said, I trust you, and I trust Joanna.
It's a very fun time, especially because you're on your fantasy binge. It's just a good
yes.
Time. And then my second one, The Night She Disappeared by Lisa Jewell, comes out in the UK in late July, but in the US on September 7th. And I've learned my lesson buying the UK book overseas and having it shipped to me and it being a weird time. So I will wait. I will wait until September because I've learned from previous attempts. And just last year, I read like almost every book Lisa Jewell has ever written. So like I love her thrillers very much. Then She Was Gone was one of my favorite books of 2020. So just looking forward to it. Yep.
Then She Was Gone is one of my favorite books I've ever read. It's so good.
It's so good.
I actively think about it all the time.
Constantly. I know people who've read it and are ambivalent about it. I'm like, what? What are you doing? What?
No. It's and so I was actually really excited when I opened the Google Doc and I saw that because I had no idea that Lisa Jewell was coming out with a new book this year. So I would like to adopt that as one of my most anticipated releases of the year as well. I'm very excited.
So like I legit did Google like new books 2021 because I was like, I don't know.
I feel like I do not have my finger on the pulse of what's coming out.
Because my most anticipated book was One Last Stop, and like I know this could have been a book I've already, but like I don't know, I felt like that wasn't the prompt. And then the other one was Malibu Rising, but I've seen mixed reviews for that, so now I'm less anticipated to read it. But we'll see. Yeah,
we'll talk about that.
We'll talk about it.
Next episode.
Yeah, next episode.
I actually did not have a ton of stuff that I struggled to find an anticipated release for later in the year because I similarly was really excited for One Last Stop and Malibu Rising. And then a couple other books that came out in June. I read 5 of the books that I read in June came out in June, which is wild for me. That never happens. So, but yeah, I feel like I got all of my anticipated releases out of the way. All of that to say, what I decided on as my most anticipated release for later this year is Under the Whispering Door by TJ Cloon. It just seems like a fun fantasy time. I now trust TJ Cloon after reading House in the Cerulean Sea earlier this year. It wasn't a 5-star read for me, it was a 4-star read, but it was such a nice time. And so I feel like I'm excited to read more from him. So I feel like it's gonna be good.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to that as well. Next we have new favorite author, and this one was a little tough for me because last year I would have said Lisa Jewell. And last year I would have said Casey McQuiston. I read a lot of books this year that were new favorite authors last year. So this is an anticipated new favorite author. I've only read one book by her, but I'm anticipating I will continue to enjoy them. Colleen Hoover. She writes a lot of romance and mystery thrillers. So like that's like my two fave genres just smushed together.
This is the Katie Venn diagram.
Katie Venn diagram. I've heard a lot of good things about a few that are my physical TBR, so I'm hoping to get through a few in July and see if this holds true.
Very exciting. For me, so having not read Red, White, and Royal Blue last year, I read it for the first time this year, and I read One Last Stop. And so Casey McQuiston, I am ready and willing to read anything that she writes. I'm
every book.
ready. I'm sold. It's nothing but good times from Casey, and I am thrilled. Truly, I'm very excited for everything that she comes out with. The next one was a debut author this year, and it's Tracy Deonn, who wrote Legendborn, which I think is my favorite thing that I've read this year. So that's the only book she has, but I am very excited to continue that series and potentially anything else that she writes. I'm sold. I'm all in. So Tracy Deonn and Casey.
That's also in my physical TBR. You'll notice when I talk about my physical TBR, you'll be like, Katie, are there 30 books in your physical TBR? And I'll be like, yes, yes, there are. Yes, that is the case. Next prompt is our new fictional crush, and obviously we have the same person because we're in love with Dominic from the X Talk. So
he's the best boy. He's the best book boyfriend. He's the best one.
He just simply ruined my standards for men. Yeah. So sorry.
He's just like
the men currently trying to message me on Hinge currently.
Yeah. R.I.P. to all of them.
R.I.P. to all of them.
He is just like the perfect nerd boy. He is slightly pretentious, but I find it endearing. And let me tell you, the moment I was gone on this fictional boy, and he creates a makeshift thunder shirt for a very anxious pup. And I have a very anxious pup in my life. Her name is Harriet. You'll hear her on the podcast most likely eventually. She's very vocal. And she regularly has to wear the thunder shirt. And I can't stop thinking about it. He's fake, and I would like him to be real and date me.
Yep, same. Please. if only women wrote real men, that could be cool. That could be fun.
That would be so great. Wow, yes. Katie, what book made you cry the most this year?
The way I sobbed 3 separate times during one last stop, and it was like within 30 pages of each other. It was just like, cry, stop, cry for separate reason 5 pages later, cry for separate reason.
I also got very emotional in this book. It's a lot.
It's a lot. And then there's happy tears, which is also great, but you've already had all of the sad tears. So yeah, if you're looking for overwhelming amounts of emotion, one last stop. But we're going to talk about it more in our June pod. So
yes,
you can listen to that for the review.
For me, so I did also cry for one last stop, but I think to diversify the list, but also I think I cried a little bit more reading Inivisble Life of Addie LaRue.
I also cried more reading Inivisble Life of Addie LaRue. I simply read it in like November. The problem.
And I can't even describe.
It's so good.
It's so good, and it's like heartbreaking, but like inspirational in kind of a way, like the way that she perseveres, and like I sobbed. I was a bit of a wreck for a little bit, and it's so good.
No, I sobbed for like 30 minutes, like after reading. I closed the book. I was like, I don't know actually what to do with myself right now. I'm pretty sure I called you. I was like, I don't know what to do.
I think so.
Conversely, what book made you the happiest? Tawny, tell me. You have to go first. For this one.
I cheated and I put 2. So one of them is Red, White, and Royal Blue. Listen, it's nothing but good times.
Good times.
Like, it's honestly the best written relationship I've ever read. Like, my heart was glowing. It grew 3 times its size. It's just, I was grinning while reading it. It's so good. It's so swoony.
It's just like, it's funny. The romance is so good. All of the relationships of all of the characters, not just the romantic one, so good.
So good. You're happy. So good at adding ensemble.
Yeah, and you're happy for the fictional United States of America in the end, too. You know?
Yes, you really are. It gives you hope, faith in humanity.
Just
good
like
times.
only good vibes. Truly.
Yes. And the other one is House in the Cerulean Sea. Because again, this is just like a cozy, happy time. If you are looking for something that is just really comforting and sweet and nice, this is like a sugar cookie of a book. It's just a real happy time. So those are what made me happy. Katie, what made you happy?
Oh my god, this is this will be an extensive conversation in just a little bit here. But I was in the biggest reading slump this month. Like I just read One Last Stop, and I read The Hating Game, and I really enjoyed those, but I was like having trouble getting into books. And you know what made me happy was getting out of my reading slump, having a nice time with some 7-foot-tall blue aliens on the ice planet. So I read quite a few books from the Ice Planet Barbarian series this month. I had a great time, just like laughing the whole way through. Just very fun. 10 out of 10. What a good time. Made me happy. You know, just you can't take that for granted. So
you can't follow your heart. Read what makes you happy at everyone.
At everyone. So we're nearing the end of this review. We talked about our goals at the beginning of the pod, and we covered it a little bit, but just so we can go more in depth, Tawny, what are your goals going forward for the rest of the year?
Okay, so I flew by my 52 book reading goal, and so now I have made. So I was about to say my stretch goal. It feels like less of a stretch now that I am.
It's simply not a stretch. It's not.
It's not. It's
a natural conclusion, and you're probably going to get to like 110 is the situation.
I feel like that, and I wasn't sure what to do beyond 100 because 100 feels like just a good number. So 100 books is my new goal for the year. It will happen, most barring some kind of catastrophe or reading slump, but yes. My second goal, which is something that I touched on earlier, and I did not have a concrete plan going forward the way that Katie did, but I do just want to read more POC authors. I want more diversity in what I'm reading, and I should be better at that, and I should take more responsibility for seeking those things out. So there's that, and then my third one is that I just need to be more willing to DNF things and let go of things that I'm not enjoying. I don't need to read books I don't like. I simply don't. And yet I do. I will be reading something and I will be having a bad time. And then I feel like I have to finish. Or I will be reading a series and it's not great and simply pick up the next book. For what reason? For what possible reason? I couldn't tell you. I just have this weird completionist mentality, and I would like to do better by myself and have a better time and just let go of things if they're not.
This is very evident by Tawny reading the entire Shadow and Bone trilogy and me reading the first one and then 20 pages of the second one and just piecing out. I'm like, nope, we're good.
See, Katie knows. Katie understands how to do this. You have to teach me your wisdom.
The strategy is to have ADHD and be unable to pay attention to things that do not bring you joy. So that's my mental illness is that I can't be bored. So
you know what? One positive side effect is that you're not reading terrible things.
I am, but they give me joy. So
you know what? That's fair. That is a fair distinction.
Yeah. So I talked about mine a little bit. I really want to stop buying books specifically on Amazon, but in general, spending less money on books when I know I have like a lot of avenues available to me to get free books. I'm a student. I have a university library. I have the City of Philadelphia library. I have Libby. I have probably 30 to 50 unread books in my home, despite living in an apartment. So just like focusing on reading what I have already and borrowing. If I do make a purchase, it should be at an independent bookstore because I've got several cute ones here that I'd love to support. So yes, just that's a big goal of mine. And related to not supporting Jeffrey Bezos, CEO, entrepreneur, born in 1964, is I am maybe migrating to Storygraph. Tawny, have you heard about Storygraph?
I haven't. Tell me about it. This sounds like it's about to be sponsored content. We're not.
It's not. We have no sponsors at all. It is a Goodreads alternative. So, because you may be aware that Goodreads is Amazon a sponsor,
yes,
of course. So, and I haven't decided for sure because the thing is that I'm a completionist, so I would have to just complete the Goodreads one this year and do both. So maybe I'll hold off on this till 2022 actually, but. Things that I like about it, like features specifically I like about it, you can easily import your Goodreads library. Like that's not a problem. It gives like very good recommendations, and it also like reads, like it looks at all of the books you've completed and the ratings you give it. It's like, hey, you like books this long that have like this vibe in this genre, and here are recommendations based on that. And I think that's very cool. I like that a lot.
Oh, I like that because one of my big issues with Goodreads and with like Kindle is that just because I've read a book, it doesn't mean that I liked it. And so I actually have had several prompts where it's like, you read Fairy Godmothers Inc. You would like this. I'm like, did you look at my rating? Did you look at the single solitary star that I awarded to this book? I don't think I would like what you're recommending.
So yeah. And then another feature that's cool is that there is an actual did not finish shelf. Like it's not a tag, it's a shelf. And then it asks you to explain why. So I put the second Shadow and Bone series in my did not finish shelf, and it said why, and I said it wasn't good, and then I shelved it there. Yeah.
I like that.
Good. And then there are 0.5 and 0.25 star rating options.
Oh my god. Quarter stars, my dream. Oh my god.
In addition, it has like very good graphs and stuff. So that's just like the story graph info. If anyone is listening, you're not, but if you are and you like don't want to support Jeffrey Bezos, like I think it's a good option, and like it seems to have a good community too. It's more of like a technical thing for me because I will want to finish my Goodreads anyway. So yeah, we'll see. I haven't figured it out yet, but anyway, that's just related. And then my second big goal is to just focus on enjoying reading, not making it a chore, not making it like a goal for self-improvement, because like that's not the point of it for me. But like to that end, I want to create a better infrastructure of how I receive book recommendations so that supports diverse voices. This is not like a thing I can do in a week. This is going to be like an ongoing thing. But I want to focus on enjoying reading, not feeling like I'm being a bad person or just like a bad reader if I'm not always supporting diverse voices, but we're just working on developing that space further. So, and everyone's allowed to read whatever they want, have a good time, even if there are naked blue aliens on the cover. So
absolutely, please read alien porn if it brings you joy. If it doesn't bring you joy,
don't read it. Don't read it. So yes, Tawny, that was our mid-year wrap up. I think we were under time.
We did such a good job.
We're gonna be really self-congratulatory here. Well, I'm looking forward to talking with you at some latter date about the books we read in June. Definitely not 5 minutes from now. But I'm excited when we talk next January also to talk about whether we made the goals and like how the whole year went and to set new goals for 2022. So
yes, very exciting stuff.
Yes. Well, thanks for listening to this special episode, an introductory session for you all. Please listen to our regular episodes when they will happen at some point.
They're going to happen.
They're going to happen.
Maybe soon.
Maybe one of us is feeling obsessive about this project right now. So maybe soon. You can find us at BookeringsPod on Instagram and Twitter now. What? A new social media account that I made today? Crazy.
Incredible.
And our website's bookeringpod.com. You can find me, Katie Zellner, at Kat Zellnerd. Tawny, where can people find you?
You can find me at Tawny Waterin on Twitter, where I scream about the Fast and the Furious franchise. Also on Instagram, and everything should be the same on Goodreads as well.
Yep, same here. So thanks so much for listening. please do not listen. We do not wish to be perceived.
Absolutely the case.
Please don't tell anyone about this podcast. Unsubscribe, but maybe
It's a
leave
secret.
a review.
It's a fake podcast.
It's a fake podcast. Maybe leave a review, because even though we wish to not be perceived, we do like external validation. So
we do.
Thank you so much for listening, and we'll talk to you guys soon for Zoom while we take a break. So, okay.